Alright, so today I want to talk about a new way of farming legendary weapons. I have been playing this game since launch, well, slightly before launch actually because of early access, and I never knew you could do this. So if you're sick of farming legendary gear from the usual methods of save scumming elite enemies or using the weapon case glitch, very controversial, this is a way more immersive method to get legendaries. So you can fill up your inventory with an array of powerful weapons and armor, like this explosive coachman with the 1-inch punch perk that multiplies the amount of explosive pellets that come out of the barrel. That's a lot of firepower. Or this legendary Beowulf that one-shots enemies at impossible distances, all without recoil. So this legendary farm involves getting a mysterious note that points to the location of a legendary item stash. This note can be found from certain vendors and it's called Directions to Stash Location. Following the location leads you directly to the legendary chest, which contains either a rare epic or legendary item. But here's the good thing with this, you can save it right before you enter the vendor's location and this will randomize the item in chest. So if you get to the chest and it's not got the thing you want in it, simply reload the save you made before the vendor and try again. The item inside the chest actually generates each time you visit the vendor. It doesn't generate when you open the chest, so unfortunately you won't be able to save right before opening the chest and randomize the item that way, but still you're basically given the exact directions to the stash, so it doesn't really take all that long to get your legendary. Now, some Starfield players will already know this method as it has been in the game since launch, but this is such a huge game and it doesn't really explain its mechanics all that well, so most players will have missed this, and that includes myself. I'm basing this all off a Reddit post by this user who posted how they were using vendor notes to find secret legendary stashes. Big shout out, by the way, to this Reddit poster, and I had to just give this a go. But here's the thing, these notes are just not showing up for me. I know the method works based on the replies to the post, with most people saying it's working, but for me I just can't seem to get the notes to spawn. I've been to a bunch of vendors and none of them seem to stock it. Now apparently this note is found obviously in the notes section that vendors have, and the name of it, as I said, is Directions to Stash Location. According to the Reddit post, you can find the vendors who sell it at civilian outposts. These are the little encampments on planets symbolized by this small igloo icon. You might have come across them. And if you are looking for the perfect planet to try this on, check this one out. 3 civilian outposts all on one side of the planet. So you can visit them all one after the other and look for your directions to the stash. But for me, I've tried literally every one of these locations and more besides these ones. And I've also waited 48 hours for their stock to reset and the notes just do not appear. I think this is more of a me thing because I've googled it and the majority of people do not seem to have the same issue. The notes also appear at trade authorities apparently, so if they're not spawning for you at vendors, try visiting the trade authorities. These can be found on the likes of Neon, New Atlantis, and there's also one at the Den in the Wolf system. A lot of people like to go to the Den to sell off their stolen goods. You can even go to trade authority kiosks, so you don't have to speak to actual people. Try the kiosks and you might find them here. Now these are a bit more promising for me, these kiosks, as they actually have a notes section, as opposed to vendors who don't even have these sections. But even then, there are no directions to stash locations at the trade authority kiosks. For me, they just do not appear wherever I go and whatever I do. And there are a few reasons for this. Number one, maybe I am just cursed. I can believe it. Or maybe more specifically, my game is cursed, as there are some glitches in Starfield that only affect a small number of people. One such glitch is having empty ships land on planets. These ships come down and they're meant to have people in them to interact with and maybe give quests and things like that. But since the game is bugged, it has no more memory to render these people and it locks you out of the activity. This glitch is said to happen the more you save. So if you've saved hundreds of times over the course of your playing time in Starfield, it starts to reduce the game's memory. And this leads to more frequent crashes. The only way to get around this is to start a completely new save. I've not experienced that particular glitch, thankfully, but a whole lot of people have, and they have my sympathy. So yeah, I have a feeling the legendary notes are glitched for me. To give Bethesda the benefit of the doubt though, it might be that you need to be a certain way into the game or have finished a certain mission. And what I try to do is finish a few story missions and then go back to the vendors and try again. But whatever I do, I can do main story missions, I can do side missions, these notes will not appear. They might be triggered by one quest in particular, and I reckon it's one of the main ones since so many people seem to have found these notes without issue. If it was some sort of easily missed side mission, then more people would have trouble with this. But there's definitely something you need to do, some, kind of invisible point in the game you need to get up to for vendors to stock directions to stash locations. As I say, if you have found these directions, then do let me know in the comments what level you are and how far through the campaign you are as well. Let's get to the bottom of this. So give this a go and see if you can find the notes. And if you can, if you want to know the best locations to get more, there are loads found in civilian outposts. I stress, apparently. You don't have to search aimlessly for these either, as there's a simple method of finding civilian outposts. That's by looking for the 3 dots on planets. When you go to a map screen and look at any system, look for any planet or moon with 3 grey dots on them. Anything that has these 3 grey dots will have at least 1 point of interest. Points of interest range from robotics facilities to UC garrisons, but many of them are civilian outposts. They seem to be the most frequent type of POI in the game, and when you're there, a quick way of finding the person who sells the note is to look for characters called provisioners. Provisioners, along with vendors and also traders, are the 3 types of character who sell this note. So as you're approaching a civilian settlement, you get your scanner out to highlight NPCs in blue. Then as you get closer, check to see if they're either a provisioner, vendor, or trader. If they are one of these 3 things, chances are they will stock this note. But if they don't, if you're like me and you just can't find these notes anywhere, you could always try waiting 48 hours in a chair or bed and talking to them again. Ignore NPCs called things like homesteaders, as they have nothing useful to say. A boring waste of space. So yeah, just to recap, to get legendary items in Starfield in a way you might not have considered before, go to a civilian settlement, speak to a provisioner, vendor, or trader, scroll down to the notes section and purchase the note called Directions to Stash Location. Then all you have to do is open your inventory and read the notes, and the direction will pop up automatically on your HUD. It's that simple. It might not be as quick as save scumming elite enemies, but it feels more immersive to get legendary weapons this way, and it's probably closer to what the devs actually intended. Like, you are actually playing the role of a treasure hunter here as you read these notes and head off to find the treasure in question. Although if you wanted, you could save before entering the vendor's location, then keep reloading until you get the item you want. So you don't really have to play completely within the rules. Anyway, that is how to get legendary weapons in Starfield. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more Starfield guides. And if you are feeling generous, sponsor me over at patreon.com/gamingwithgriffgriffin.